Hi everyone, good day. This is Dr. Vaughn, and for today we will be discussing about your physical examination of your urine. So this will be the first part of your urinalysis, the physical examination of your urine. Your urinalysis is subdivided into three important tests or parts. We have the physical exam, the chemical exam, and your microscopic examination. So the main reference handout for this discussion will be your Urinalysis and Body Fluids by Strasinger, the 6th edition. So, our learning objectives for today, at the end of this video lecture, the students are able to explain the importance of the different parameters involving in your performing your physical examination of your urine. So later on, we will be discussing the four important parameters that comprises your physical examination. We have the two most important. We have three most important. We have your color. We have the clarity. Then we have the specific gravity. And the last part, we have your odor. And then describe the principles in urinometry, harmonic oscillation densitometry, your refractometry, reagent strip, and your osmolality in determining your specific gravity. So there are a lot of methods for us to measure your specific gravity. But what is currently employed right now is through your reagent strip. And lastly, accurately report your physical examination of your urinalysis. I guess this is laboratory part. That's why you should be able to accurately and correctly report your physical exam sa ating urinalysis. So again, let's talk about the steps in your urinalysis. You're already done discussing about the different ways and method to collect your specimen, yung ating specimen collection. And then, you have to verify the samples that you are going to collect. Of course, it is really important that there should be a proper verification of your sample so that we could have an assurance that you are able to process the correct specimen. And then, the third part will be your physical examination of your urine. Again, this is the most important or one of the most important part of your urinalysis, physical examination. And then followed by your chemical examination. This will be discussed in the following weeks. And then your microscopic examination. And lastly, the release of your result. So for today, our main discussion will be about the physical examination of your urine. As I said, your urine will be, your physical examination involves four important parameters. We have your color, we have your clarity, your specific gravity, and lastly, your odor. Again, the determination of your urine color, clarity, and specific gravity. Doc Von, how about the odor? Sige nga, may ask you, do you think that we have to um, should be part of our physical examination of the urine? I mean, the odor must be included in the releasing of your result as part of the physical exam of your urine? Of course not, because your odor is not part of the routine physical examination. But again, it is a noticeable property. Meaning to say, your odor may also give us a hint or a clue that a possible disorder or diseases for our patient. But again, this should not be part of a routine urinalysis. Meaning to say, hindi natin siya ginagawa. Imagine, you have your urine sample. Are you going to smell each of these sample? Of course not. Again, as what we do in our physical examination, this discussion will only focus more on the color, clarity, and your specific gravity. For the other part, this will be discussed thoroughly in your lecture counterpart. So you will also have a lecture discussion of your physical examination. But again, my role here is mostly the laboratory aspect of your physical exam. However, your odor will really give us a clue for a possible disorder, because I remember when we had a case of MSUD, wherein it's, remember MSUD, it's a rare metabolic disorder that could be that is common really in a newborn or infant. It's, di ba, we all know that it is caused by a defect of an enzyme that they have a lack of a certain enzyme or defect in an enzyme that would break down amino acid, and um they will penetrate this, they have this kind of urine odor that is very sweet at tinatawag na po, kaya siya tinatawag na maple syrup urine disease, kasi nga ang amoy is really maple syrup. I was able to encounter a pediatric patient, as in literal guys, when we try to smell, as in I have a resident, oh, smell nyo yung diaper, so dinay na may smell, as in literal, it's a maple syrup, it's a sweet smell. But then again, yes, it may give us a clue to a certain disorder, but this is not part of a routine urinalysis. Yung color, clarity lamang, at saka specific gravity. Okay? So what do you think is the importance of doing your physical exam sa ating urine? So based on this parameter, no, we can say that the physical examination is basically based on your observation, based on your senses. Most specifically, your color, clarity, and odor. Color, what can you see? For example, this specimen, what can you see? What is the color of this sample? Of course, this is yellow. What is the clarity? So when we talk about the clarity, you are talking about the transparency or turbidity of your sample. So what can you see this one? What can you see, describe the clarity of this sample? Of course, this is clear. So based on this parameter, we can say that your physical examination is basically based on your observation or somehow your senses. That's why it becomes very subjective now. Yeah, it's very subjective because it's how you interpret the color and the clarity. Of course, sometimes my color would say, some other medical technologists would say, this could be light yellow, this could be dark yellow. But based on my observation, this is yellow. So this is very subjective. And the clarity, for me, this is clear. Some would say that this would be hazy. So meaning to say that will be dependent on the medical technologies for us to avoid such problem in terms of the in terms na magkakaiba tayo ng interpretation, we will have a specific parameter, most specifically sa clarity, na how can we say that it is clear? How can we say that it's hazy? So, we have a certain parameters to follow so that we were able to come up with a similar observation. But sometimes in the color, of course, magkakaiba talaga kami ng mga color differentiations. For me, it's yellow, light yellow. But for me, as long as you are of the same spectrum na your sample is yellow, that's fine. But kung magsabi ako ng yellow and sa kanya it's red, then that's gonna be a problematic result because a red color and a yellow color will be very, very different. Like, sila na spectrum. But for me, no, as long as you are within the spectrum na yellow siya, it's fine with me. We would define it as a pale yellow, light yellow, or dark yellow as long as you are of the same spectrum. But then again, we have to make sure that we have this kind of parameter na for us to be able to come up with almost the same observation. Kasi nga, physical exam, it's really medtech based on your senses, based on your observation. Okay? But for the specific gravity, we don't have any problem with that because we have a parang different methodology for us to measure really the correct specific gravity. But then again, later on, as what you can see sa ating reagent strip, which is one way of computing of identifying your specific gravity, the color parameter na naman will be very tawag ito, very subjective na naman. Sige lang, later on, we will discuss now. So again, ang ating discussion will focus more on the color, clarity, and your specific gravity because this is the routine part na ginagawa natin for your physical exam and your odor is not part of it. It's not part of the routine exam. It may give us a hint or a clue but not part of it. But this will, or your odor will be discussed thoroughly sa lecture part. Okay? Since this is your laboratory, I want you now to be familiar of your urinalysis result. This is my urinalysis result. Tinanggal ko lang yung hospital name and yung mga signatories ng mga doctors and medical technologists dito. So, this is now an example of your urinalysis result. I know you're already familiar with this one because you're already you had your mga routine physical examination, right? So again, going back sa ating urinalysis sample result, you see, there is a physical examination, then we have your chemical examination, you have your microscopic examination. So, this is the most three important parts of your urine analysis. Ang discussion natin is all about the physical exam. We have your color, which is yellow, appearance or your clarity, so it could be clear, turbid, milky, so depends on the clarity. And then, Doc Fon, where is the specific gravity? So, your specific gravity is already included here sa ating chemical examination. But then again, it should be part sa ating physical exam. Doc Fon, so bakit siya nasali sa ating chemical exam? Your chemical examination, chemical examination, one way of determining your chemical examination is through your reagent strips. Ito na yung pinaka-common na ginagawa sa laboratory. So, meron tayong reagent strips and all of these parameter, including your specific gravity, is already part of that reagent strips. That's why na-include na lang siya sa ating chemical examination. But then again, it should still be part of the physical exam parameters. Okay? So, wag lang kayong ma-confuse bakit nandito yung specific gravity kasi nga, na-as1 siya sa ating reagent strip. Okay? And then, we have your microscopic examination. So, ito na yung mga sediments, mga cellular parameters that you have to identify microscopically. So, mga cast, crystals, epithelial cells, and others. Yung parasites, bacteria, spermatozoa, or whatsoever. Okay? So, dito na yung nilalagay natin. Microscopic examination. I hope this is clear, ha? Very easy lang natin, no? Physical examination. But somehow, nagkakaiba ng mga result because of it's very subjective. Okay? So, first parameter that we are going to discuss is your urine color. So, again, your urine color, it varies from almost colorless to black. So, a noticeable change in your color is often the reason that a patient seeks medical advice. Of course, we all know that the normal urine color is pale yellow to yellow or even dark yellow, depending on the patient. But again, the usual color is yellow. But if there's a change in the color, biglang naging red, naging red, or there is a change of color, then most of the time, most of our patient would seek a medical advice. Okay? The common urine color, pwedeng pale yellow, yellow, or even dark yellow. So, what is the pigment that causes the yellow coloration of our urine? It is now your urochrome. Again, you are familiar with our urobilin and your stercobilin. Remember the metabolism of your bilirubin? Diba? I discussed that in our hematology. Your bilirubin will undergo several processes from the liver, 'di ba? Kailangan it needs to be conjugated because remember, your bilirubin is water insoluble, and remember, it is very toxic in our body. It has to be converted into a water soluble so that it could easily be eliminated into our body. And your urochrome or your urobilin, it is already the product of the endogenous metabolism. And then under a normal condition, the body produces it at a constant rate. That's why we will be able to identify the yellow color of our urine. So again, as what I said, your urine color varies from almost colorless to black. So you have to identify the color. Simple lang. It should be a pale yellow, light yellow, yellow, dark yellow. So again, it's very subjective on your part. But for me, as long as you are of the same spectrum, doesn't matter man for me. Okay? So, sometimes a pale yellow we term as a straw color. Yan yung pale color. And this is already your amber color and red urine color. So, very subject. So, paano na lang kaya yung mga color blind na mga people, no? Can they be able to identify it correctly? I'm not sure. Hindi ko din na-try na sa mga friends ko na colorblind. Paano yan sila, no? Mag-identify. Okay. So, next parameter, again, I just want to clarify, no? So, sa urine color, you can identify it whether it is a light, pale, yellow, For example, the specimen is yellow. You can identify that as whether pale yellow or light yellow, yellow or dark yellow. Again, you don't have to identify color as yellowish, greenish. Ito talaga pinaka very common mistake sa amin dati kasi we try to identify, parang hindi kami sure na, is it yellow? Yellowish na lang, parang something-ish. So, do not put ISH, yellowish, greenish, reddish as your urine color. Identify it correctly. Yellow, dark yellow, light yellow, pale yellow, red, pale red, light red, dark red, but do not put ish on the end of the color. Yellowish, reddish. Hindi yan. Mali talaga yan. Kasabaan gid mo, ana. Okay? Don't have to identify that. In terms of the urine clarity, this is a general term that refers to the transparency or turbidity of your urine specimen. So, visual examination of a mixed specimen while holding it in a front of a light source. As long as you can clearly see your specimen, it is okay. So, it may be reported as clear, hazy, or slightly cloudy, turbid, and or milky. Again, sa urine clarity, we do not have a problem with it because we will have a parameters for us to really identify what is clear, what is hazy, what is cloudy, what is turbid and milky. Unlike in your color, it will really depend on how you see that color, okay? Sige, ito yung mga parameters that I am talking about. So, this is the urine clarity. So, these are the terminologies: clear, hazy, cloudy, turbid, and milky. When we say clear, no visible particulates, it is transparent. When we say hazy, few particulates, print easily, seen through your urine. When we say cloudy, many particulates, print blurred through the urine. And turbid, print cannot be seen through your urine. And milky, it is may precipitate or be clotted. So, Doc Fon, okay lang yung clear kasi it's transparent. What do you mean by that print? Of course, sometimes it's a lot for us to determine whether hazy siya, cloudy, or turbid using your newsprint. Sometimes, may lagay kaming newsprint dyan, and sa likod, doon namin nilalagay yung urine sample. And if the print sa newsprint can be seen, then that's hazy. Kung nag-blur, it's cloudy. Kung cannot be seen throughout, that's already turbid. So, meron tayong example niyan. Ayan. So, may newsprint kami sa likod. And then, these are now the different urine specimen. Nilalagay namin sa test tube. And then, again, going back sa clear, walang visible particulates, very transparent. Yung slightly cloudy natin, or yung hazy natin, merong few particulates and print easily seen through your urine. And sa cloudy naman natin, many particulates and print, tingnan nyo, nag-blurred na siya. It already started to blur yung mga print or letters sa ating newspaper. And then sa ating turbid, print cannot be seen through your urine. Tingnan nyo, yung mga letters na nasa likod, hindi na talaga siya mababasa. And this is already an example of your milky or precipitated or your clotted na urine sample. So, Doc Van, do you really need na you have a print there at the back and then you have to really transfer it in the urine? Actually, through time or through experience, you don't have to do this anymore as long as you are already confident that this is clear, this is cloudy. Your experience really will help you determine your urine clarity as fast as you can. It's really easily. Sometimes, sa sample lang namin, tinitingnan lang namin sa sample, as long as there is a good source of light, then you could directly identify the urine clarity. But of course, at your level, you will be you will not, you're somehow not sure na, is it really slightly cloudy or turbid? Then, this is the best way for us to identify these terminologies para at least ma-make sure nyo na tama talaga yung ating urine clarity. Okay? So again, example, cloudy versus clear urine. Tingnan nyo. Cloudy, of course, as what you can see, cloudy talaga siya. Unlike here, clear, very transparent. And this is examples of the different appearances ng ating urine. So pakita lang natin, i-move lang natin. Of course, what is the color? This is red. And what you can see about the clarity or the appearance, it is cloudy. So red, cloudy appearance. Lakihan natin para ma-appreciate nyo. Yan. Yan pa natin. Yan, perfect. So again, red, cloudy appearance. Ito, red. And you can see it's clear. This is yellow, but cloudy. Of course, medyo hindi klaro din yung picture natin dito. Okay. So this is now the correct procedure in doing your urine color and your clarity. Number one is you have to evaluate an adequate volume of your specimen. Of course, it's gonna be very difficult if you have only a parang portion or less than an ml of your sample in terms of identifying the clarity. Of course, the color, it would be easier. But for the clarity, would it be enough for the specimen? For example, less than 1 ml lamang for us to identify the clarity of that sample. It's going to be very difficult. That's why there must be an adequate amount of your specimen. And then, again, use a well-mixed specimen. So again, you have to thoroughly mix the specimen before identifying the color and the clarity, most especially the clarity na part. Because what will happen? Remember, there are sediments in your urine. So, for example, nag-turbid ang specimen natin because there are a lot of sediments, but you were not able to process the urine sample as soon as possible because there are so many things to do. So, ano nangyayari? Nagsisettle down yung sediments, and what will happen? Ang nakikita mo, if you are not going to mix your sample, nagigi clear siya. Nagsisettle down yung ating mga sediments sa bottom because of gravity, and it will look as now as clear. So, it will create a falsely negative result. That's why you have to thoroughly mix your sample. And later on, no, there will be a confusion in your result because you reported the sample to be clear. But then again, when you do your microscopic examination, you were able to identify a lot of different sediments, crystals, and whatsoever. But your physical examination, it seems that ang nakalagay doon is clear. So that's why there could be now a confusion. It is very important that there should be a proper way of correct way of reporting your physical examination. Dapat mutugma pud siya sa ating microscopic examination. When your physical examination says that it is turbid, then we will be expecting as a doctor, we would be expecting that there will be a lot of some or sediments or crystals or any or cells that can be identified in your microscopic examination. That is why physical examination pa lang dapat correct na ang ating reporting because this will give us a clue later on sa ating chemical examination and in your microscopic examination. Dapat congruent yun siya, okay? May times pag yun nga, ang nakalagay sa physical examination, turbid. Nilagay niya turbid. So, sorry. Alarm. Ang nakalagay sa kanyang physical examination is that turbid. But when you go to the microscopic examination, walang na-identify na mga sediments. There are no cells, pwede 0 to 1 lang siya. So, it is very incongruent. Of course, as a physician, I would request for another urine sample or somehow I ask the medical technologists why the result is very incongruent. Because guys, a lot of times if the result is very incongruent, no, most of the time the physician will really call the laboratory. I've experienced that a lot of times when I was working. They really ask na, bakit ganito ang result sa physical exam and sa microscopic and parang di siya tugma. So most of the time, pag hindi nagkakatugma, of course, you have to collect another sample for that. So repeat examination to make sure that the result will become congruent. So that's why, no, to avoid such problem later on, and of course, para at least hindi kayo pagalitan, you have to really make sure physical exam pa lang, correct na ating sample. Okay? Next, view the urine through a clear container. Of course, that's very important, no? Kung imong container turbid na daan, of course, you will be able to give a incorrect clarity na result. View the urine against a white background using adequate room lighting. So this is the most ideal thing to do. But again, through experience, no, as long as you're already confident, it's a lot easier for you to identify, then there's no problem with that. Maintain adequate room lighting, evaluate a consistent volume of urine, and finally, you determine now the color and the clarity. So, ito na yung ating physical examination. Color and your clarity. So now we will discuss the last part ng ating physical examination, which is your specific gravity. Here sa specific gravity, we will be discussing different, different methods in identifying or measuring your specific gravity. But again, as I said, the most important parameter here, or the most important methodology, is now your reagent strip. When we say specific gravity, it is the evaluation of your urine concentration. Excuse me. When we say urine concentration, it measures the kidney's ability to concentrate your glomerular filtrate. So it determines the adequacy of specimen concentration to ensure accuracy of your chemical testing. Then, it measures the density of the dissolved chemicals in your urine. So, technically speaking, when we say specific gravity, it is really defined as the density of your solution compared with the density of a similar volume of distilled water with a specific gravity of 1.000 at a similar temperature. Because urine is actually water. So technically speaking, urine natin is water, but then again, it contains your dissolved chemicals. So that makes water different from urine itself. Of course, urine natin may water content yan, but then again, with dissolved chemicals. The specific gravity of urine is a measure of the density of your dissolved chemicals in the specimen. So basically, density. We're talking about density sa ating specific gravity, but referring to the dissolved chemicals in the specimen, referring to the solute rather than the solvent. Okay, again, sa urine, ang solvent natin, that's the water. And of course, our solute will be your dissolved chemicals. Diyan napapasok yung ating mga sediments, mga crystals, mga cells. So that is already part of your dissolved materials which is present in your specimen. So again, specific gravity, normal random specimen, it is around 1.002 to 1.035. Most random specimen is around 1.015 to 1.030. So there is really a value sa ating specific gravity. Unlike sa ating water is only 1.0000. Wala gina siya numerical value at the end because we all know that your water does not contain any dissolved materials or dissolved chemicals in it. It's just purely solvent, no solute. Kaya nga, no, sometimes there are people na nagsasend, for example, for urinalysis. Tapos, for urinalysis, tapos ayaw niya, hindi siya makakapagbigay ng sample. Usually ka ng mga physical examination sa mga workers, 'di ba? Usually they have an annual testing for that and they have to submit urine sample. But there are people na they cannot really give sample. So anong ginagawa nila? Of course, they submit water sample. A very annoying yung kayo na sa mga they will just submit a water sample. So, again, one parameter for us to determine that it is a water sample is that through your specific gravity. When the specific gravity becomes 1.000, of course, we were able to know, most probably this is a water sample. Of course, inadyo na mo na pasyente, nagsabit makagtubig. And of course, the patient would say na, sir, di magito water, sir, dili magito sa water, sir. So, how can we confirm that the sample submitted by the patient is water and not urine, other than specific gravity? What do you think? Of course, you can proceed with your microscopic examination. Check mo yung microscopic exam. Of course, you can also check the chemical exam. But one important yun to confirm that this is really water is through your microscopic exam. Check mo. There are no sediments. There are no cells or whatsoever. So that will confirm that this would probably be water. But again, physical examination pa lang, you can able to identify na it must probably be water because the normal random specimen usually na-adyo siya numerical value 1.002 to 1.035 pero random specimen 15 to 30. 1.015 to 1.030. Specific gravity of your plasma filtrate leaving the glomerulus, it's 1.010. Isostenoric, 1.010. Pag sinabi nating isos, meaning same or so that's 1.010. Hypostenoric, below this value, that is 1.010. Pag sinabi nating hyperstenoric, that is already above or 1.010. So it is influenced not only by the number of particles present but also their size. So again, yung specific gravity at not only by the number of particles but also the sizes of your particles. Of course, the sizes would also influence the density of your sample. The presence of your large molecules requires correction in some methods in your specific gravity determination. So later on, we will understand ano yung mga correction na yan kasi it will also be influenced by the sizes man no, of your particles. Okay? So again, we will be discussing the different methodology ng ating specific gravity. We have your urinometry, we have your harmonic oscillation densitometry, we have your osmolality, we have your refractometry, and your reagent strip. Yung urinometry and your harmonic oscillation densitometry, these are already a historical methodology of identifying your specific gravity sa ating urine. But what is currently employed right now is your osmolality, your refractometry, and your reagent strip. But ang pinaka-common among these three is really your reagent strip. Ito na lang talaga yung ginagawa natin sa most of the laboratories. Let's discuss first your urinometry. So do not worry, I will be sharing different video demos of these different methods para at least ma-visualize natin no kung how you will be able to do or the methodology of your urinometry. I will be providing YouTube YouTube video demos of your different methodology. So again, we have your urinometry. Gumagamit siya ng ating device which is your urinometer. So this is your urinometer. Ito yung urinometer natin. So the principle is based on the buoyancy or density. So we will learn later. So it is a weighted float attached to a calibrated scale. So itong urinometer natin, meron tayong weighted float dito attached to your calibrated na scale. It displaces a volume of liquid equal to its weight. Again, designed to sink to a level of 1.000 in distilled water. Again, pag distilled water ito, automatically it will sink to a level of 1.00. Additional mass causes the float to displace a volume of urine smaller than that of your distilled water. So therefore, will float higher in urine. For example, 'di ba, as we all know sa ating urine, sa ating water, wala siyang laman. It is purely solvent. So therefore, your urinometer will sink at this level. But when our sample is already a urine, and remember, our urine will have a solute. It has a dissolved chemicals present in your urine. Therefore, anong mangyayari? Because of the additional mass, because may additional mass ang ating urine, mahihirapan mag-sink ang ating urinometer. That is why it will float higher in your urine. So, tataas ito and you will now be able to identify now your specific gravity. So that is the basic mechanism of your urinometry based on the density or buoyancy. Again, 'di ba? We all know pag water or distilled water ito, automatically magsisink siya kasi nga walang mass or walang solute or walang any dissolved chemicals or mga sediments etc. sa ating water. So therefore, magle-level lang siya sa 1.000. And then when it's already a urine sample ang ating tinest, anong mangyayari? It will now float. Mahihirapang mag-sink itong ating urinometer because there is already a presence of a dissolved chemicals, there are already sediments, there are already solute present in your urine. So therefore, aangat ito, it will float higher in your urine. So that's the basic principle of your urinometer. The level to which the urinometer sinks represent now the specimen's specific gravity. I'm so sorry, check ko lang sir ha. Check ko lang muna guys. It's actually 6 a.m. You know what, guys? I was really annoyed last night because I was supposedly to post my lecture video Sunday night. Yun yung nakalagay. Kasi na-prepare ko na tong video na to. And what happened is that na-prepare ko siya few days ago na, as in ready na lahat, na-prepare ko na, na-process ko na. After processing my lecture video, hindi ko siya tiningnan. And then by Sunday, I'm about to post na wala siya audio. I'm so annoyed. Wala siyang audio. And dalawang lecture ang pinipare ko for this week for CC2 lecture and for the AUBF lab. As in, wala dyan audio ang duha. So, I have to repeat again. So, I have, nagising ako early in the morning for to, parang matapos na talaga itong mga, para ma-catch up po yung deadline. Supposedly, dapat ang posting, diba, is Sunday or Monday. So, I have to wake up early. As in, I was very annoyed last night. Ano tayong magagawa? Ulit-ulitin na lang natin to. So, again, ito yung ating urinometer ha. Again, this is not a urinometry. Urinometry ang methodology. But ito, this is your urinometer. Of course, we have parts of ating urinometer. Meron tayong stem, meron tayong float ito, and the weight. Ito yung weight, mag-reason para mag-sink siya sa bottom. Okay? And then, again, this urinometer is designed to sink to a level of 1.000 in distilled water. Additional mass, sabi ko nga, additional mass causes the float to displace a volume of urine smaller than that of your distilled water. Kaya, umaangat siya. So, ito yung nakikita natin ng mga values. Nakalagay na yan, 1.00. Pag water siya, dito lang siya, dito yung aangat yung ating urinometer. Pero pag naging urine na siya, magfo-float siya, aangat siya pataas. So, dito na yung mga readings natin. Pwede na siyang 1.010, 1.020. So, again, tingnan natin ano yung procedure ha. So, this is now the procedure of your urinometer. Allow urine to reach your room temperature. You have to fill the glass cylinder with urine up to 2/3, at least 15 ml of urine. So, ito yung ating glass cylinder. So, sorry guys, isa-silent ko sa ako ni siya. Sorry. This is your glass cylinder. And then sa ating glass cylinder, you have to put urine up to 2/3 of that, or at least 15 ml of your urine. And then make sure that there are no bubbles or foam in your glass cylinder. And gently drop your urinometer. So, ilalagay mo na yung urinometer dyan. And then make sure that your urinometer does not touch the bottom of the container and allow it to float freely. Somehow, you have to impart a slight spin to the float as it is released. And then, read the calibrated graduation at the lower meniscus. Again, you have to read it at the lower meniscus. So, sige lang, I will show you provide a demo video of this procedure. Again, no, read the calibrated graduation at the lower meniscus. Saan natin mabasahin? Sa lower meniscus. So, line of sight natin, ito yung lower meniscus, then yun natin babasahin yung reading ng ating urinometer. So, that will be now our specific gravity. So, again, going back here, pag nandito ang lower meniscus, so therefore, ang result natin is 1.020. So, what will be the disadvantages of our urinometry rather? Of course, large volume of urine is needed. So, what you can see kanina, ang minimum is 15 ml. And imagine, if you have a pediatric patient, would you be able to do specific gravity lang for this patient? Of course, mahihirapan tayo. So, that is now the basic disadvantages of our urinometry. And remember, your urinometry is less accurate. Tandaan ha, this is less accurate than the other methods, and it is not recommended by your CLSI or your clinical and laboratory standards institute. So, hindi siya nire-recommend because there are a lot of disadvantages, large volume, turbid specimens are difficult to read. Of course, remember, turbid specimen na siya. There will be a lot of tawag ito, there already a lot of sediments at ating turbid specimen. Would you think that your urinometer will be able to sync? Mahihirapan yung ating urinometer. And then, you will have to do a lot of correction. You will do temperature correction and large substance correction. So, temperature correction, you have to add 0.001 for every 3 degrees Celsius above the calibration temperature, or subtract 0.001 for every 3 degrees below the calibration temperature. And then, large substance correction, subtract 0.003 for each gram of your protein present, and subtract 0.004 for each gram of glucose present. So, meron tayong mga examples niyan. So, example ng ating temperature correction, calibration temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. Urine temperature is 23 degrees Celsius. So, therefore, it is 3 degrees Celsius above the calibration temperature. And then, your initial reading is 1.015. So, how will we do the correction? Urine temp is 3 degrees higher than the calibration. You will be going to add 0.001. So, from your initial na 1.015, add lang tayo 0.001, then your final or corrected SG will be 1.016. For large substance correction natin, urinometer initial SG reading is 1.035, glucose present is 2 grams per DL, and protein present is 1 gram per DL. So, how do we make our correction? Correction natin, sasubtract lang natin, di ba? Initial reading natin is 1.035 minus ang ating protein in every gram, 0.003. Pero ang example natin, 1 gram lang. So, therefore, we subtract only 1.003. So, the result is 1.032. Then, you subtract with the glucose. Glucose present is 2 grams. But remember, in any gram, in every gram, you have to subtract 0.004. Ang example natin is 2 grams. So, you multiply that by 2, it becomes 0.0008. So, therefore, from 1.032, you subtract glucose, the final or corrected SG will be 1.020. Yan, very easy. Basic lang, no? You just have to subtract for each gram na present. Next procedure will be your harmonic oscillation densitometry. Similar with your urinometry, this is already your old test na to. Your harmonic oscillation densitometry, frequency of a sound wave entering a solution changes the proportion to the density of the solution. So dito, we are now talking about the frequency of sound wave. So ating principle dito is more of the sound wave. It uses now your U-shaped instrument with electromagnetic coil in one end and motion detector in the other end. Then your electrical current will be applied and will allow the sound waves to pass through the solution. So therefore, the amount of sound wave frequency reflected will be equivalent to the density. So that will be now your specific gravity. Check natin. This is your harmonic oscillation densitometry na main device na ginagamit or within the device na ito, sa loob na ito ng device. So, paano nangyayari yon? So, your urine enters a glass tube. Yung glass tube natin dito, yung U-tube natin with an electromagnetic coil. So, ito yung ating electromagnetic coil at one end. Then, your sonic oscillation is generated when an electric current is applied to a coil. So, pag meron na tayong electric current dito, there will be now a sonic oscillation. Then, your oscillation detected, then i-detect yung oscillation and that will now be proportional to the density of your urine. So, a microprocessor corrects now a sample temperature and result is valid up to a specific gravity of 1.080. So, again, your specific gravity is only 1.080. So, yan yung pinaka-maximum na result na kaya niyang i-read. So again, tapos na tayo. Madali lang yung harmonic oscillation based lang sa frequency of your sound wave. Yung urinometer natin based on the density. Yung harmonic oscillation based naman sa ating frequency of your sound waves. Next, the third methodology of your specific gravity measurement is your osmolality. So your osmolality is based on the number of particles of solute per kilogram of your solvent. That's your osmolality. Anong kinaibahan sa osmolarity? Yung osmolarity naman, ang solvent, ang unit is in liter. Number of particles of solute per liter of solvent. But we are talking here about the kilogram of solvent. That's why we are talking about your osmolality. So the measurement of your colligative properties of solution and comparing their value with the value of your pure solvent in your osmometer. Sorry. So the osmolarity of a solution daw guys can be determined by measuring the property that is mathematically related to the number of the particles in a solution. That is now your colligative property. Then you have to compare that with the value obtained from your pure solvent. So remember, 'di ba? Meron tayong solute and meron tayong solvent. So your solute is being dissolved sa ating solvent, which will now cause a changes sa ating colligative properties. Ito na yung changes sa ating colligative properties. Dito kasi, this is just a normal pure water point. And then ito, when your solute now is being dissolved to our solvent, there will now be a changes sa ating colligative properties. So what are those changes? So remember, kindly take note of the changes sa ating colligative properties guys ha. There will be a low freezing point, there will be a higher boiling point, there will be an increased osmotic pressure, and there will be a lower vapor pressure. So take note of these changes sa ating colligative properties. Again, sa ating urine sample, because water is the solvent sa ating urine, the number of particles present in a sample can be determined by comparing now your colligative property value with that of the pure water. Then to measure your osmolality in the urinalysis laboratory, it will now require your device which we term as now your osmometer. So basically guys, ang ginagawa lang natin sa osmolality is that you just have to compare the changes sa ating colligative properties with the normal pure water point. And all of these changes will be detected by our osmometer. Ito na yung sinasabi natin na osmometer. Ito na yung device or gadget or machine that will detect our osmolality. Okay? As simple as that. Don't worry, you will have a discussion with your osmometer when you reach your clinical chemistry 2 sa discussion sa lab ng electrolyte, water distribution, kasi you will have to be able to identify the osmolar gap. You have to compute for the osmolar gap, and then yung osmolar gap can be determined, pwede siya calculated or measured. Yung calculated is, or yung measured is based sa ating osmometer. But for here, I just want you to identify lang, importante lang sa osmolality for me, no, if you have to identify the changes sa ating colligative properties, kasi dito binibase yung specific gravity later on. Kine-compare siya sa ating normal pure water point, and which will be detected by our osmometer. Okay? Mula yung basic principle. Based sa changes sa ating colligative properties. Next procedure will be your refractometry. This will be the second to the last method ng ating specific gravity. Refractometry. Yung face-to-face kami, ang dalawang procedure lang, ay tatlong procedure. Of course, yung nagawa namin, yung reagent strip, yung refractometry ito, and lastly, yung urinometer. We were able to perform that in the face-to-face scenario dati. So, refractometry, it uses now your refractometer. It measures the refractive index. So, again, sa refractometry, based naman sa refractive index. Comparison of the velocity of light in air with the velocity of light in solution. Again, velocity ng light in air versus velocity ng light in solution. So this will be now the specific principle ng ating refractometry. The concentration of dissolved particles present in the solution determines now the velocity and angle at which your light passes through your solution. So sorry, wait lang. Ayan, this is now your refractometer na device. These are the basic parts of your refractometer. Meron tayong daylight plate. Sa daylight plate, dito natin nilalagay yung ating urine sample. Then this will be your calibration screw. This will be your rubber grip. This will be your eyepiece. And this is your focus adjustment. Kasi you have to rotate that and to clearly check yung calibration sa loob mamaya sa ating eyepiece. So what will be the procedure for our refractometer? Number 1, put 1 or 2 drops of sample on the prism. So 1 to 2 drops of sample sa ating prism, and then close the daylight plate gently, and then the sample must spread all over the prism surface. Again, this should be the correct ito talaga dapat it's spread all over talaga ng ating prism. Mali ito, mali din ito. Dapat entire prism. And then, look at the scale through the eyepiece. Titingnan nyo siya. And then, read the scale where the boundary line intercepts it. Saan yung boundary line? Babasahin natin yung ating specific gravity. So, as simple as that. That's your refractometer based on the refractive index. Then, wipe the sample from the prism and clean now with your tissue paper and your water. So, we have advantages and disadvantages for your refractometry. So, advantages natin, small volume of specimen lang nyo, 1 to 2 drops lang of urine, unlike the 15 ml ng ating urinometer. Then, no temperature correction, but again, sa disadvantage niya, we have a correction for your protein and your glucose. For the calibration, use your distilled water that should read 1.000, use 5% sodium chloride that should read 1.0022 plus minus 0.001. You could use also 9% sucrose that should read between this range, and then your urine control sample with low, medium, and high concentration. So, kindly take note with our calibration. So, yung calibration natin, this will determine na yung gumagana or tama pa rin yung ating refractometer na ginagamit. So, again, in terms of correction sa ating refractometer, the same with our urinometer. Correction for glucose and protein must be calculated by calculating 0.003 for each gram of protein present and 0.004 for each gram of glucose present. So, as simple as that. That is your refractometry. So, don't worry. I will still provide a sample demo video for your refractometry. Again, we are down to our last physical examination, methodology ng ating specific gravity, which is your reagent strip. And again, as I said, ito yung pinaka-common na ginagawa na sa laboratory because this is very, very simple. So, this is now an example of your reagent strip. Ito yung ating reagent strip. Again, na-include na siya sa ating chemical examination, no? Because your reagent strip already includes different parameters ng ating chemical examination. So, there are different reagent strip. Mayroong iba 14 parameters, 12 parameters, but what is commonly employed in the laboratory is a 10 parameter. Yung 10 parameter na yon, you will be able to identify the leukocyte, nitrite, urobilinogen, protein, pH blood, specific gravity, ketone, bilirubin, and your glucose. Again, hindi naman natin yung focus, no? Ang focus natin just your specific gravity. So, each of these pads, kasi tawag natin yan mga pads, will have their own principle. Iba-iba yan ng mga principle. Then, we will have a specific principle for your specific gravity. And then, simple lang. Yung reagent strip, i-dip lang natin sa urine, wait for a certain time, and then compare now the color changes. Ito yung sinasabi ko na it becomes subjective again kasi nga you have to compare the color, di ba? Depende pa naman kung ano paningin ko is 1.010, 1.015. So again, that will become subjective naman. Pero it's a lot easier kasi you have just to compare lang based on the color changes sa ating specific gravity. So reagent strip, advantage niya, very convenient. and based sa principle na change in the pKa of your polyelectrolyte in your alkaline medium. So your polyelectrolyte ionizes, releasing now your hydrogen ions in proportion to the number of ions in the solution. So the more concentrated ang urine, more hydrogen ions will be released, the pH will be decreased. So ang ating indicator will be your bromthymol blue, which measures the change in your pH. So, meron tayong color blue. That would be if color blue ang lumabas na result, 1.00, that's gonna be alkaline, to green, to yellow. And pag yellow na, meaning to say the specific gravity becomes higher, that already be 1.030 or becomes acidic. So the more acidic siya, no, the more na taas ang ating, the more na concentrated ang urine, the more na hydrogen, the more na taas ang atong specific gravity. So that's why pag yellow becomes acidic, more concentrated kasi siya. So ang interval daw is 0.0, hindi to siya negative ha. Ang interval niya is 0.005. Tingnan natin yung interval na ibig sabihin dito is ganito. Ang pinakamababang result is 1.005. Do you think, are you going to put 1.000 pa dito? Of course, hindi tayo mag-expect ng 1.000. Kasi nga, water, specific gravity yan ng distilled water, and we're not expecting that to a urine sample. Again, you don't have to release a result of a urine na 1.00 ha, kasabang yun mag-doktor Ana. Dapat, start kita dire sa base sa ating parameters dito, nagsa-start sila sa 1.005. Ang interval is by 5, so add by 5, 1.010, then 15, 20, 25, and then 30. Okay? So again, specific gravity, anong principle natin dito? Yung specific gravity natin na pad, ito yung pad natin, nilalagyan natin ng pre-treated with a polyelectrolyte which is susceptible to pKa changes in the relation to ionic concentration, which reads into this specific gravity. Then there will be ion dissociation and there will be pH change, and then the pH change will be reflected by the different colors here. Okay, deep blue, green, yellow, or green. So, as a summary of the different methodology, ano ba yung principles na diniscuss natin? Of course, yung dalawang old method, yung urinometry and your harmonic oscillation densitometry, of course, that is based on density. And yung tatlong ito na yung current methods in the measurement of your specific gravity measurement. Again, refractometry, based on the refractive index, osmolality, changes in the colligative properties by the particle number, and your reagent strip, pKa changes of your polyelectrolyte by ions present. So these are the basic principle or summary principle of the different methodology that we are going to discuss. Okay? I guess, ay, salamat. That ends our video lecture. Just collect times 2. Ginako nag-usap-usap, no? But then again, we were able to correctly we were able to achieve our goals sa ating objectives, sa ating learning objectives sa ating discussion for today. We can now be able to correctly identify the physical examination of your urine. We will be able to correctly interpret and release the result of your physical examination of urine. So again, if you have any clarifications or questions with regards to my discussion for today, please do not hesitate to PM me or post that on the content forum so that other student mabasa din niya yung mga questions ninyo. Okay? Again, that ends for today. Again, after nito, gagawa pa. I mean, i-repeat ko na naman yung CC Tulek na discussion. Just color. Sige na lang. So, that ends my lecture video. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day and happy aral. Thank you.